This past week's high-profile trials includes the movie Popcorn case, the Taser case, and the I Can't Breathe case. All cases involving cops. One retired, one sentenced this week, and 3 other cops involved in the George Floyd case. Hey, we're going to discuss all 3 of those on this week's Charlie Crimebuster. Well, what some people are calling, the fastest minutes in podcasting. Well, hello and welcome to today's podcast. Wow, what a week. 3 high-profile cases, all involving cops. And we'll get you up to date on all of them. First, again, welcome to all of our first-time listeners. Hey, we always love to hear from those who have just found us. Hey, please take time to reach out. Email me at charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. And from all of those others out there that we hear from week after week, well, my friend, we have a special introduction gift to send to you, each of you. Our way of saying thank you for being a listener to this week's podcast. That email again is charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. We're going to list it also at the bottom of your show notes. Hey, also, if anything this week, this podcaster will tell us is that cops are living in days like none other days. You see, cops today are ambushed. They're persecuted in a war against cops' mentality, and they're prosecuted in a court of law. Now, some of them deserve to be prosecuted. Most of them do not. But today, if you do your job and fire your weapon in the line of duty, well, you're going to be investigated thoroughly. Your public and private life will be in a fishbowl for all the world to see. You see, while I'm still very proud to be a member of the Band of Blue brothers and sisters, well, I know that those who are serving now are facing challenges, that us older guys never really faced. And I salute every one of you. And if I had it to do over, I would still do it. And I know that the same courage that leads all of you today to serve and protect, it would be there for me and all of those others who dare to put on a badge and put their life on the line to help protect others. Therefore, I believe it's more important today than ever to show our support to the men and women of law enforcement. We're going to show you how to do that in today's program, so please stay tuned. But our focus today is on 3 cops that are on trial in this week. It's the Popcorn murder trial, the Taser trial, and the I Can't Breathe trial. First, let's talk about the Taser trial. This is a sentencing trial for Kim Potter. You see, Potter, who is white, she fatally shot Wright, a black man, back in April 11th of last year. She and a training officer, they pulled Wright's vehicle over that day because he had a blinker on in the wrong lane. He also had expired tags, and he had an air freshener hanging from his rear view mirror. Now, keep in mind that Potter was training an officer on that day. And it is common to pull over motorists for minor traffic violations to not only enforce the law, but as opportunities also to train young rookie officers. These officers then discovered that Dante Wright, he had a warrant for arrest on a weapons violation and an order of protection against him. Let me also add that there was a lady in the car as a passenger. The police there, they could not help but wonder, was this lady that he had a no contact order on? Could she not be in danger? So just as police policy dictates, they attempted to arrest him. And Dante Wright, he resisted the efforts. He was in his car and he was attempting to drive away. That was while another officer's head was in the vehicle on the other side, attempting to keep him from putting the vehicle in gear. Now during the struggle, Potter, she called out, "Taser, Taser," and she intended to tase Wright. But mistakenly, sadly, she pulled out her service revolver and shot Wright. Wright, who then drove down the street and crashed into an oncoming car. Now at the trial, the defense attorneys, they argued that Potter, she mistook her firearm for a taser, but that she was justified in using deadly force to prevent another officer from being injured. And they also brought experts in to share how our brain works in a moment of crisis, how that brain will reflect back to training, and sometimes can cross-communicate to our reflexes, such as the mistake of grabbing the taser instead of the weapon, or the weapon instead of the taser. Now, if you want more information about the trial itself, let me encourage you, go to charliecrimebuster.com. There you can find a podcast there where we went in the entire trial. We'll also have a link to that on the show notes. You see, Officer Wright, she was an exceptional officer for over 30 years. She was one of the good ones who made a very tragic mistake. She was found guilty of both first and second degree manslaughter. And this past Friday, she was sentenced. Now, this is indeed a very tragic case. A family did lose a loving son, a father, and a loved one that they will never see again. And you should be able to trust police in doing their duty and not to accidentally shoot someone. I totally agree with that. It is also tragic in an exemplary police career that was cut short and an officer's life ruined as a result of a tragic mistake. My friend, it is just a sad case all the way around. And the judge in this case, well, she had a very difficult choice to make. You see, give her too much time for the tragic mistake she made? Well, then those who love and support law enforcement and tough jobs that they do daily, well, those people who support those people, they will be most disappointed. But give her less than a sentence, then the family and the loved ones of Dante Wright will both be upset and rightly disappointed. In fact, if it was your son, daughter, loved one that day shot by police in such an accident, you would probably think that no time is enough for someone like that to be locked up. Well, the judge, she spoke of reasons why people are locked up, and I want to put it to you in simple terms. They're locked up, 1, to get them off the street, to keep them from harming others. 2, they're locked up to rehabilitate them or to charge them or change them perhaps from the person that they have been. And number 3, they're locked up to punish them for their actions. You see, in my opinion, she is right in saying that 2 of these 3 would not apply to Officer Potter. You see, she would not be doing this again to others, and she did not need rehabilitation. She was a good person who made a tragic, awful mistake. Now, the guiding sentencing guidelines for normal manslaughter charges, well, in that state, it's up to about the 7-year range. But keep in mind that judges, they do not have to follow the guidelines. You see, it's simply a guideline that they can use, and they could charge either more or they could charge either less. Now, the family, and at first the prosecution, well, they wanted them to charge more. The prosecution recently, in light of this situation, they withdrew that motion for more time than their guidelines, while the defense, well, they made motions for simple probation. Now, just as the judge said that only 1 out of the 3 reasons for locking someone up would apply, she kind of took that reasoning with her sentence. In other words, she gave her about a third of the time. She gave her 24 months, with a requirement that she would have to serve 16 of those months. You see, most all sentences can be reduced by good behavior and other reasons. You see, my friend, I believe that the judge got this one right. You see, people die because of the mistakes of others, unfortunately. Untold thousands of people die because of the mistakes of those in the medical field every day. But how often do you ever hear of those people being tried for their mistakes? Yes, this is a horrible, tragic mistake that took the life of someone's loved one. It is understandable that the family would be outraged about a light sentence, but I do believe the circumstances bear the consideration of a light sentence, and I believe the judge showed real courage and handed down the sentence in a fair way. Now, there is nothing in this case to be happy about for sure, but our next case will take us back to the case that brought police conduct to the forefront of our nation. That is the George Floyd case. And we're going to get to that in just a moment, but right now, it is time for our Courageous Citizen of the Week story. And this one is a little girl who's earning praise for the quick thinking that she displayed. That was when a stranger attempted to give her a lift in his car. Her name is Madison Rains, and Madison Rains and a friend, well, they were walking in a park when a stranger approached the duo in a white SUV. And while shielding his face, well, the man told Madison that her brother had been in a serious accident and that he had been instructed to pick her up. Thankfully, the Arizona family, well, you see, they had previously agreed that having a code word, and that was one that they only knew, and the code word was used to verify the information from family members in an event. Now, thankfully, Madison remembered the plan her family had come up with, and Madison asked him what the family's code word was. You see, the stranger, he did not know the answer, and immediately he drove away, and the fifth grader ran straight home and told her mother. She said, "I was scared because if I hopped in, well, I didn't know what he would do to me." That was what little Madison Rains said to Good Morning America. Yes, it's called Stranger Danger. Now, Madison says that her parents had told her about the potential danger from strangers. And Madison mom, well, Brenda James, well, she wants kids to know that it's okay to ask that question and that not everyone is your friend. She went on to say, "I think kids respond more to kids than they do to adults. And they can understand that they can be brave and smart and run." So I thought she could reach more families out there, and that's why Brenda James agreed for her little girl to be able to talk on Good Morning America. So this little 10-year-old girl who remembered her parents' safety training, and along with her parents, they are indeed, our Charlie Crimebuster's Courageous Citizen of the Week. Now, our next story has to do with three former Minneapolis police officers who were also at the scene when Derek Chauvin, when he had his knee on George Floyd's neck. You see, these officers began testifying this week in a federal criminal trial where they stand accused of violating Floyd's civil rights. Now, while Chauvin, he did kneel on Floyd's neck, there was another officer, Alexander King, a rookie cop. He kneeled on Floyd's back. Then he moved, of course, to actually put his knee on the outside. Now, another rookie, Thomas Lane, he held his legs down. And then a third officer, his name by the name of Total, he kept bystanders back. None of them actually stepped in to go against their lead and training officer. Now, two of the former officers, they're charged with failing to intervene against Chauvin's unnecessary violence. And all three of them are charged with failing to provide for Floyd's proper medical care. Now, the defense lawyers, well, they argue that the Minneapolis Police Department, well, that they provided inadequate training, taught them to follow orders from their superiors. And Chauvin, who was convicted of murder and manslaughter last year, he was indeed the most senior officer there. In fact, this is what he testified and said this. He said, quote, "I think I would trust a 19-year veteran to figure it out," unquote. This was while he was explaining why he did not ask Chauvin to move and get his knee off of Floyd. Now, King, who had only been on the job for a few days, well, he testified that field training officers like Chauvin, that they served as a role model, and that his own training barely included any mention of the duty to intervene. Also, there was a defense expert on the use of force. Incidentally, he was the same one used in Kim Potter's Taser trial. He did point out that that he did move his stance on Floyd's to a proper pressure place away from his back. That's to the side of Floyd's knee. So his pressure was not contributing to the death, according to the expert. But now a conviction. A conviction? Well, it would mean actually prison time for the former officers. It would also have real big ramifications, even outside of Minneapolis. According to Professor Christopher Lopez, he said this might be a rare occasion when a criminal prosecution, well, it would have an inordinate impact on how officers think about their jobs, how agencies think about their responsibilities. You see, Lopez, he has spent years investigating police misconduct. He did that for the Department of Justice. Recently, he co-founded a program a program that actually trains law enforcement to stop being passive bystanders when their colleagues act out of line. Now, I have been a rookie cop at one time, and I can tell you this: as a rookie cop, you develop your police career, and those who are developing their police career, you look to your superiors for guidance. My friend, this isn't just walking into an office and maybe facing some paper cuts. In this work, your life depends on your brothers and sisters that are out there on the street with you. Your life and the ability for you to go home to your family, well, it depends on you listening and following the lead of your superiors. You see, my friend, this is a bond that transcends. It transcends. It's much more than just losing your job for not obeying orders. You see, my friend, in this situation, you could lose your life for not following the directions of your superiors. A news commentator, I think he said something very interesting this week. You see, he asked the audience to think about it this way. Say the cop did intervene, and say that George Floyd did not die. What then do you think would happen to the cop? The cop who would throw Chauvin off of Floyd. What do you think would happen to him if Floyd did not die? Well, I tell you one thing, he probably more than likely would be charged himself with an assault on a superior officer. He would definitely lose his job, and he'd be humiliated before the whole force. So this pressure, I believe this pressure, it really did bear the fact that this jury should consider hearing it. You see, one of the officers actually was only doing crowd control, did not even have a reason or ability to intervene. The bottom line is this, folks. These officers should not have been charged in the first place. Now, Officer Chauvin, well, he was correctly charged and convicted. He was a veteran. He had been with the force for many years. He knew and realized he was not following the right procedure. But those that were following their training and dependence upon command, I don't think they should have been charged. Now, there will be new and more focused training, and it will be done in law enforcement, training on when to intervene. And I believe this is good and this is right. But to take these rookie cops, they should not be used as scapegoats. Let's hope the jury gets this one right. Now, our next case is the theater popcorn murder trial. It does involve a retired police captain who once commanded the SWAT team of the Tampa Police Department. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. But right now, it is indeed time for our crazy crook story. Now, this one is unknown, but his case sure isn't. This one comes to us from the world's dumbest criminals probably ever. This was actually due to this criminal being less present at the time of the robbery. Yeah, that's right. You see, this dumb man, well, he entered a bank, and there he threatened the target with a real gun. You see, this robber had a gun and a bag in another hand, and this low-minded person, well, he told the target to fill up the bag with cash. But instead of giving him the bag, well, this idiot, he handed over his gun to the target. He was probably under pressure because robbing out a bank, well, it's not like eating cake. But this stressful situation, he made his mistake. Instead of handing over the bag, he handed over a gun. And after a few seconds, well, the robber realized his mistake, but it was too late for him. You see, unlike the robber, well, the worker, he was in full presence of mind. He took full advantage of the situation and pointed the gun straight at the robber's face. Well, the robber, he ran away without money, but even then, he was not empty-handed, because then he pedaled off an employee's bicycle and he took off. But the bank saved itself. So, my friend, I guess this says to us, if you're going to rob a bank, you ought to be cool under pressure. So cool that you do not mistakenly hand the gun instead of the bag to the teller. And that, my friend, is our Charlie Crimebuster's Crazy Crook of the Week. Now our next story is the movie Popcorn Murder Trial, and it's going on in Tampa right now as we speak. You see, the role is of a tossed bag of movie popcorn, and it played a central part in the trial Monday as it opened. This was for a retired Florida police captain who fatally shot a man in a theater 8 years ago. Meanwhile, the victim's widow, who was also shot during the incident, she also took the stand on this past Monday. You see, the question isn't whether Curtis Reeves, the retired captain, shot and killed Chad Olson at the theater on January the 13th, 2014. The question is whether Reeves felt threatened enough by Olson to justify firing his .380 caliber handgun after the two argued over Olson's cell phone use in the theater. Now, to prosecutors, well, they say the triggering event in the argument, I get this, was Olson's tossing of a bag of popcorn at Reeves. They went on to say that's not enough to claim self-defense. What the evidence will show you, according to the assistant state attorney, the evidence will show you that Chad Olson was shot and killed over tossing popcorn. That's what he said in the opening statement. He went on to say that's no reason to kill another person. The defense, however, they say something differently. They contend that Reeves, then 71 years of age, was in declining health, and that he feared that the 43-year-old larger Olson would punch him out or otherwise assault him, and may have thrown his cell phone at the older man. The defense attorney, they say that Reeves also understood risk and sensed danger from his 27 years with the Tampa Police Department. This isn't about popcorn, the attorney told the jury. You're going to see that there was an attack before the popcorn was thrown. Now, Reeves, who is now 79 years of age, well, he faces a potential life sentence if convicted of secondary-degree murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The trial, well, is expected to last approximately 3 weeks, and it is being held by a jury of 4 men and 2 women with 4 alternates. Now, perhaps one of the first questions you might have is, why is this trial being tried 8 years later? Yes, this happened way back in 2014, rather. Why is it now? Why is it just now going to full trial? We know that there are always delays in trials, but hey, friend, 8 years? 8 years of delay? Well, there are some reasons, right or wrong, why this trial's taken so long. First, there was the preliminary trial, the probable cause trial. Then there was a stand-your-ground hearing. You see, if the defense could prove that the retired captain was just standing his own ground, well, then the case would be thrown out of court and the defendant could go free. They lost that one. But just then, the state of Florida turned around and amended its stand-your-ground law. They amended it to say that the defense did not have to prove stand your ground, but that the prosecution had to prove that it wasn't stand your ground. So the defense of the retired police captain, they wanted to have another run at it, and they wanted to have another trial, so they filed another motion, and they argued on that as well. Well, eventually that appeal was denied because the court said it could not apply the same law because that law was not the same when the shooting occurred. So, arguing about stand your ground, it did indeed delay the trial. Then comes the lawyers. His lawyers are very aggressive. They did, get this now, they did over 100 depositions, over 100. They filed hundreds of motions, and all of those, of course, delayed the courts. Then comes something along called a pandemic, which has delayed numerous trials. So I guess now we can see why 8 years later this trial is being tried in Tampa, Florida. Meanwhile, Captain Reeves, who was 71 at the time of the shooting, well, he's now 79. And the defense is using his frail age as a part of their defense. They're also saying that he feared for his safety of serious harm and death, and that he was lawful in using deadly force. They will also argue that his experience as a former SWAT commander and his training led him to be able to discern the difference even more so than others. Now, even though I'm very pro-police and certainly believe that carrying a weapon, well, my friend, it can level the playing field for seniors in our country. Even though you may be weaker, if you have a weapon, you have something to defend yourself. But my friend, I must say that whether or not the senior is in law enforcement or not, You must use your weapon with smart common sense and according to the law. And while I believe that this incident could have turned to the point that he could have used deadly force, in light of the evidence that I have viewed, my friend, I do not believe that it did. You see, first of all, there was a row of seats between the defendant and Mr. Olson. There was a barrier, and there is no proof that a punch was thrown, and no proof so far that a cell phone was thrown. So in this instance, I do believe that Mr. Olson, now he certainly should not have escalated the situation as he did. However, even in him escalating the situation, he did not deserve to lose his life over it. You see, Captain Reeves, who has been able to live this past 8 years on house arrest with a monitor, well, he will, no doubt in my mind, I believe, my friend, he's going to have to give up his ankle monitor for a cell, and he's going to spend the rest of his life there. So there you have it, my friend. 3 cop trials in the same week. But before you go, let me point out something. Our brave men and women of law enforcement, my friend, they face pressure today like any other time. And my friend, there will always be a few rotten apples in any orchard. But in the orchard of law enforcement, they are some of the greatest people on earth. They are committed, they are brave, and they're willing to lay down their own lives for others. Now, the bad apples, they need to be thrown out. They need to be separated by justice, our policy. But the good ones, they deserve our support. That is why we at Charlie Crime Buster, we're engaging in a new project. It's called the Peacemaker Network. And it will provide all of us with an opportunity to support not only law enforcement, but other first responders, along with our military. So let me ask you, please take the time to check out this opportunity. Go to peacemakernetwork.com. That's peacemakernetwork.com. Become a member of our network. Check it out there. See the various ways that your membership, for as little as $3 a month, your membership can help make a difference in the lives of the heroes that surround us. My friend, you and I need to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. So let me again encourage you. Please go to peacemakernetwork.com. peacemakernetwork.com. Everyone who becomes a member, well, you're going to receive a gift of appreciation. More than that, you will have the satisfaction that you're doing something to support the brave men and women of law enforcement, our first responders, and more importantly, our military, those who go to far lands to lay down their lives for our freedom. Let me invite you to join with us, peacemakernetwork.com. And until this time next time, this is Charlie Crime Buster reminding you, be alert, be safe. For the life you save, my friend, it may very well be your own.